and there are similarities between their behavior behind bars. Is Jodi Arias the next Casey Anthony? Well, the case, of course, shocked a community, devastated Travis Alexander's family and friends, and created a media frenzy. So we're going to discuss this with a panel. Joining me is criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh, criminal profiler Pat Brown, and true crime author Shanna Hogan. Police say they recovered a camera at the scene with even sexually explicit images and a picture of Travis's dead body. Pat, what the heck? Help us understand why a murderer would take a picture of the body.
Well, she was enjoying herself at that point, Dr. Drew. I really want to bring something up. We tend to give women too much of a break. Well, let's reverse the roles here. Let's assume this was a guy who did this. We've seen so many of these cases where the girl breaks up with the guy and he obsesses about her and he calls her and he says, let me see you one more time or let's get back together. She is nice. She goes to give him closure. They have a talk. She says, no, I don't want to get back together. And all along he's planned, if she says no, I'm going to kill her. And he does. And this is all I see happening with Jodi. Same type of thing. She gave him his chance. He turned it down at the end. She killed him. So if she were a guy, we wouldn't even be talking about this. We just call him a psychopath and a creep and a domestic abuser, and we put him away. Because it's a woman, we're like, ooh, what are her problems? I wonder why she thinks this way. I wonder what happened in her childhood. We give her too much of a break. She is what she is, a cold-blooded murderer.
Well, Pat, I like that profile, but you said she's enjoying herself when she was killing him. That's why she took the picture. There are really freakish cases where people sort of get off on the murders. Is that what you're implying here with her?
Absolutely. In all of these cases where you have a domestic abuser, in a sense that's what she was, a stalker, someone obsessed with a guy, someone who can't accept the fact that he would dump her and she would lose, she has to have that final moment of winning. That's the big thrill. It's like, okay, you turn me down, you are not going to walk away from this. I am going to win. And so at that moment, she is thrilled because she has actually, she's beaten him, and he's never going to get to go off with those other women anymore.
Okay, so it's the power and the thrill. It's not some weird sexual thing as it sometimes is.
No, I think she's just thrilled that she got to say checkmate.
All right, Mark, what do you think this all means for the case?
Well, the good news is that prosecutors in this case and in every murder case never has to prove motive. Pat's theory is a good one, and she's good at what she does, but there could be other reasons and other feelings that she had when she was killing him. The good news is we don't have to speculate. When her bloody handprint is on the wall and it's mixed with the decedent's blood, and also you've got statements that are inconsistent. One minute there's two people that burst into the house and killed him. Next minute, oh yeah, I did it in self-defense. That coupled with all the physical evidence, this is similar to Casey Anthony in that apparently God gave her a pretty shell, but it's very different because the evidence seems to be overwhelming, linking her to the crime scene and the body itself.
Yeah, Mark, I'm tempted to get out my cowboy hat. You and I have sat in these satellite windows before, discussed this exact same scenario, it seems like. And as Pat is saying, this is not all that uncommon. But I've done a lot of thinking about Casey Anthony since that case happened. And it's increasingly clear to me in her case that there was something neurobiologically wrong. Even though I talked to a psychiatrist that didn't detect it, they really didn't do that kind of testing. I'm convinced of that. Do you think that that's the kind of thing that's going on here? This is let's call it a diseased brain, if you want to call it anything else. And does that mean anything for this case? It's just sort of proving it and that's it? Is that all that's required?
It depends which phase we're talking about. They're seeking the death penalty in this case, so if she's found guilty, what you're talking about will have a lot of relevance in the penalty phase. They'll come up with reasons why she did it, why you should spare her life. But in the guilt phase, if I'm the prosecutor, I stay away from that because you start to get into speculation. You don't need to. Did she do it? Yes. Was it first-degree murder? Hell yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay, author Shanna Hogan, or Shanna, I think your name is pronounced, I'm sorry. You have covered this case extensively, and we're drawing some, similarities here to old Casey Anthony, the changing alibis, the story changes, the lies, the distortion, the strangely lackadaisical attitude in jail. Can you expand on this for us?
I definitely see similarities between Jodi Arias and Casey Anthony. These are both beautiful young women in the prime of their lives. These are both women who committed the most unthinkable acts imaginable. And they're both well-documented liars. Jodi Arias has
Shanna,
changed her story
I got to
numerous
interrupt you.
times.
I have to interrupt you real quickly. There's a video playing alongside of you If the controller would reset that video again, I would appreciate it. It's still rolling, but set it again with the two of the cases. There they are. I want the viewers to just use your gut and look at those two women and trust what your gut tells you when you look at them and you think about the stories that are playing out in their lives. Just think about that feeling you get. It is a very peculiar feeling that I personally am not accustomed to. If you really tune in to what they evoke. So I'm sorry, Jodi, Shanna rather, keep telling us about this, what she did behind bars, because that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, and I think what Pat said earlier is right. Throughout history, women have been dismissed as being killers because they thought they were too demure or too innocent to commit such a horrible act. And what we've learned in the last couple decades is that they are every bit as capable of doing the most heinous acts, just as men are.
And Pat, do you know what I'm talking about when I looked at that video? I don't know if you're able to see the video. I'm watching at the same time. But these women evoke a strange, eerie emptiness when you look at them. At least in me, that's what is evoked.
That's pretty typical of psychopathy. They almost have this deadness in their eyes. And after you've been in contact with them, you just want to go home and take a shower. It's like you've been with a snake. And what's very interesting, which we're going to probably see happen, I think she'll get convicted because the evidence is overwhelming. But what happens after these women get in prison is that we see they immediately start getting fan clubs because they do have this outwardness that they can, this friendliness they can put out there, and they can start saying, oh, they were either abused women, and that's why you should feel sorry for me, or I went crazy, I don't remember any of it. And they'll have some excuse, and there'll be this huge fan club, and they'll be trying to set her free because she's this poor, beautiful, abused woman. And it's really appalling when we see that happen for the family of the victim.
Yeah, that will be very interesting to see if that in fact happens. I'll be anxious to pull together a jury of those folks and confront them about this, because the fact is, while we can understand what creates these kinds of, I'll call them brain disorders, because that's really what they are, that doesn't excuse them. It doesn't make them okay. It's not a defense for them. It's just an explanation for how it could happen. Shanna, thanks.